Hello again. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, I'm glad you found me. My name is John. I'm a full-time eBay reseller based in Melbourne, Australia. And today we're going to talk about pricing, and more specifically, how pricing affects the way we run our business. I'll start by talking about some of the Facebook posts that I see within certain Facebook groups where someone will start by saying, I've sold an item. They'll state a price for $500, $1,000. They'll call it high value. And they want to know what course of action they should take given the nature of the item. I then will read the comments and I'll see comments such as, whoa, that's really expensive. I wouldn't do this or I wouldn't do that. If it were me, I would cancel the sale. Or if I saw indications of this behavior you're talking about from the buyer, I would just cancel, block, and move on. It got me thinking about how pricing can put sellers on edge, particularly high value items. But actually on the reverse, sometimes we can also ignore a lot of low value items because we operate in a band that we're familiar with, where we scoff at low value items and we get really nervous with high value items. But if anything is within that band, we're comfortable with it, we're familiar with it, it's business as usual. I'll start by talking about what standards do we have for our businesses. Do we have systems that we can point to? Do we have practices that we confidently would teach an employee? If we do, and we're proud of our standards, then may I propose that pricing, be it low or high, should not affect how we feel about the item or the buyer on the other end, whom, by the way, we know nothing about. May I also suggest that whenever we feel nervous about high value items, could it be because sometimes unfamiliarity makes us feel unsure? And that's very normal. It's very human. I know not all of you are niche specific sellers like me. I sell very targeted. Like if I have a high value item, it usually will be because I sell toy cars and I suddenly found a really high value toy car. But it's all very much within the niche of the store that I'm selling it in. I know a lot of you sellers are generalist sellers. So sometimes a high value item could very much be, something you find in a thrift store that is high value because you've heard about it somewhere, but it's not something you're used to selling. Simple way to put your mind at ease is to educate yourself on the item and really get comfortable with the item. A good example is books. I remember the first time I sold a really rare book, I was very nervous. I was actually quite scared to even open the book. And what I did was I found a similar book with similar binding, or at least I thought. I opened up the other book and just kind of pulled the pages a bit, just to kind of work out how much stress this item could take. And then after, calibrating my body to care for the item, I went back to the rare book, opened the pages a bit more gently. But I can tell you that there was no twitching, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes you get a rare item, you're like, oh, don't drop it. Or like, I'm afraid if I open the book, I'm going to twitch and then I'm going to rip a page. I was a lot calmer because I had already educated my body on how to handle this new category of item that I normally don't handle. Also, it's funny, the funny thing about the book scenario, now that I think about it, was that books are such a common thing. I touch books all the time without thinking. But suddenly when I have to think about it, the body goes, what do I do? Oh, what do I do? What do I do? Like I'm a retard, like what do I do? Oh, do I open the page with my fingers in the corner or do I flip the side? It's dumb. I get it. The excitement of a high value item can make us feel a bit weird. So pricing aside, focus instead on your standards. If you have high standards on how to sell an item, be it from the packing to the handling to the sorting to the listing, continue doing that. Trust that despite the item being a bit out of your price range that you're familiar with, that you're still going to deliver the same service, the same quality of packing to the buyer. Trust that the buyer is going to more likely than not be a good buyer. And here's the trick. Here's the reward. Sorry. If it all goes well, allow yourself to acknowledge that you now have a familiar point. in this high price range and start looking for more high value items. Acknowledge that the feeling of excitement that you got, that's cool. First sale done, on to the next one. And hopefully from that experience that you'll grow. So just wanted to make a really quick video to talk about that, to get you guys out of your heads, to just, just shake off the nerves when dealing with high value items. And I remembered, I'll end with this example. I remembered hanging out with rich international students when I was in uni, and I would have, I guess, a $50 a week budget to buy food. And I see the way these guys would just buy food every single day, and expensive food, and then they just drive expensive cars. And then the way that they would drive it, it would feel like they didn't care if it got scratched or if they flipped the car from speeding. Like, it got me really curious. And I'd ask them, I'm like, oh, by the way, how do you guys pay for all your stuff? And they'll just go, Dad pays for it. And they were getting something like $5,000 a week from really rich parents to cover their rent, to cover their food, to cover their whatever expenses they had. They always also managed to find a way to run out of money. Like, these were the same kids who, when I want to contact them at the end of the month, they'd be like, sorry, I ran out of credit. How the hell do you run out of credit on close to 20K in monthly allowance? But they just spend. To them, it was nothing. Price is such a relative thing. So don't let it mess with you. Lean on your standards. Make sure you have good standards if you're going to lean on them. And when talking about how to deal with scenarios that may put you a bit off, like, if you sense there's a dodgy buyer, beyond the price, maybe ask the question from the perspective of, if I fulfill the order A, B, C, D, follow these steps that I already do, will I be okay? What do you guys think? And then when the feedback comes, it'll be feedback specific to your processes that you then can apply to subsequent purchases as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.